Today, I want to talk about the word reconciliation, or reconcile, to reconcile something, and the noun is reconciliation. The most popular, most viewed video we have posted on our Sunday Zoom has been the one on forgiveness. I even got a phone call from someone who wanted to be a client because he viewed the recording on our website. Every session we spoke about some small thing that is of some significance to someone out there. How come forgiveness is the most popular? Is it something that people struggle with the most? Is it something that people do more often than other things that we have spoken about? I was quite amazed and delighted to speak to someone who called me, who was not in the Zoom chat, who had somehow Googled surfing the net and was able to find me because he was seeking forgiveness. Interestingly, recently I was watching a YouTube lecture. Someone who had worked closely with Nelson Mandela, years being imprisoned, and when he was finally released, you would expect he would be so angry to be so wrongly accused and wrongly punished. Instead, he came out touting two words. The first word was forgiveness. And the second word was reconciliation. So I thought about it. When I spoke about forgiveness, I talked about how most people struggle with forgiving those who trespass against you. Human nature is such that we don't take responsibility for our own wrongdoing. So the two words he put up was forgiveness and reconciliation. And I said, wow, I've already spoken a little bit about forgiveness. Maybe today I need to talk about reconciliation. If Nelson Mandela puts it out, the two words after he came out of prison, the two words that he wants the world to learn from his lessons is how to forgive and how to reconcile. So the notion of forgiveness, just to recap, most people find it very difficult to let go. They hang on to grudges. We hang on to hurts. You did me wrong, and I'm going to carry this grudge, whether I like it or not, for the rest of my life. And then it takes a lot of therapy work, a lot of self-discipline, a lot of meditation to finally say, okay, to hate you and to be angry at you is going to ultimately hurt me, so I'm protecting me, I'm going to let you go. That's a good start. And how do we really do forgiveness is to first be part of the responsibility of the problem. Most of us find it difficult to forgive because we have done no wrong. It's all your fault. Therefore, I'm going to be angry at you. And anger being a secondary emotion and always requiring a target. Anger is like the ego we spoke of last session. It's a very hungry animal. It's never satisfied. You may find a target and lash out at it. It will just give you a temporary relief. When that is worn out, it feels worse. It's like addiction. Some people are addicted to anger because anger gives you an adrenaline high, and then you fall down. So put that aside. It takes a lot of work to forgive the other. The next step is, well, that's not enough. Having forgiven the person I believe has wronged me is insufficient. it's a good start. It's a good start. Then because the equation has two variables, but who is the other person who has wronged you? See, when I point my finger at you, the other three points back at me, and the thumb is the neutral one in the middle. So I've just started working on this one. This one stays neutral, but what about these three fingers? Hello. So the forgiveness of self is a big deal. I do a lot of work in helping people fess up, own up, and then clean up. And the clean up part, the own up part is that I am responsible for my own feelings. I have a responsibility in this relationship. I have a responsibility in this equation. I can't change the other person, but I can change how I feel. And that is a big piece when we learn that we can exercise the self-discipline and allow ourselves to take responsibility. Then we can clear the blockages. It's the anger that blocks our energy, the fear that blocks our energy. And it does take patience to do so. You will find that by forgiving the other and forgiving the self, you give yourself a blessing of peace. And when peace ensues, you will feel a sense of growth. For the Dalai Lama once said, our purpose in life is to evolve and to find happiness. And happiness is not just pleasure. Happiness is a deeper sense of peace. And then I'm going to talk about reconciliation and what that means and how we can come about using reconciliation as a blessing upon ourselves and a blessing of all those people we are angry at, that we find difficulty in forgiving, including the most important piece, which is ourselves. So Nelson Mandela threw out two words. One, forgiveness. Today I want to talk about reconciliation. And I looked up Google and what they mean by reconciliation. I have my own version of what I feel the word should mean. Two boys are fighting and then they come to you and then you say, all right, shake hands or hug and say sorry to each other. And then go about your business. Now it depends on the age of the child, and they may become friends again or brothers, and they forget about this fight until the next fight shows up. And somehow, every moment of conflict they have, the reconciliation piece is quite easy, because mama says so. Go out and play again. Don't bother me. But did they really reconciliate? The act of reconciliation involves two parties, involves the willingness to first resolve the conflict that happened between the two of you, somehow find a peaceful solution between the 2 points of view. You argue because both people think they're right. Right? They think they're right and you're wrong. You think you're right and they are wrong. That's why people argue. So in order not to be screaming and yelling at each other, you must have some common space in which you can be peaceful. I said peaceful, not necessarily agree. Now, in some of the definitions I look up, they talk about agreement. In accounting, it means an agreement of one line on the ledger with the other line of the ledger, and you must come to the same answer to have a balanced account. And that is when they do reconciliation of accounts, they somehow adjust stuff and make it work. Sometimes I think my accountant is quite magical. I couldn't find like one small item, and she would sort through and say, there it is, and she'll make She'll make everything balanced. And I go, wow, if only people are like accounting items on the ledger, life would be so easy, right? But it isn't. The biggest barrier to lack of reconciliation is the myth that we must agree on all things before we can be friends. I think what Nelson Mandela meant when he came out, I mean, how horrible it was to be imprisoned for most part of your adult life with all your liberties taken away from you. And of course, the worst part, referred to Viktor Frankl, was even worse, right? He was in the concentration camp. In order to move forward from that, there must be some sense of reconciliation. Now, reconciliation takes two parties. Forgiveness only takes one party. I can sit here and never speak to you again and be able to forgive you for all the wrongs I think you've done to me. And I cannot think about you again for the rest of my life. I cannot even sit here and forgive myself for allowing myself to let you hurt me. That's also a choice. My feeling is my choice. And I can sit here and do all that, and most wonderfully in the work we do, I can do all that in trance and never have to leave my chair, and I can get it all done. That's a very big piece of work. And if you can get to that, it's wonderful. But if you want to, is there life beyond forgiveness? This is what I'm talking about in reconciliation. Is there life about forgiveness? It's just like the client who has a weight problem because she works in special ed, and there are 9 children and nine mothers who would bring baked goods into the classroom every day. So every day she has several trays of home-baked wonderful cookies. And for her to come to me, she says, I want to be able to have a conversation with a cookie. It is eating the cookies with the children every day that causes this 50 pounds of extra weight I don't need to carry around. I want to lose the weight, get healthy, and I don't want to look at cookie as poison. I want to be able to look at the piece of cookie and thank the parents and even smell it or have a conversation with it. And if I so desire, I can pick one up, have a bite, and put it down. That's reconciliation, right? That's power you take back for yourself. Forgiveness is good. Reconciliation is a great thing. Why live a good life when you can live a great life? Why settle for a hamburger if you can have prime rib? Vegetarians, I apologize. I don't have a vegetarian or a vegan metaphor to. What does it take to reconcile with the person whom you feel have wronged you, or someone who has hurt you? What will it take? Now, it's a good thing we had talked about forgiveness first, because you cannot have reconciliation without forgiveness. It doesn't work. You can't make them kiss and make up and then send them to their rooms. They'll kill each other one of these days because you're just stuffing it in the barrel. And one of these days, when it's overstuffed, it will blow. How do you clear those blockages of hurt and fear within ourselves, of pain, of anger? I contend that all negative emotions are an expression of fear. So any of the feelings that you don't feel good about comes from a place of fear. How do you mitigate that fear so that you can walk with your head held high and you can be peaceful with yourself and the person whom you've had conflict with? How do you do that? We talk oftentimes in abstraction. Oh, you should do that. Just like the client told me, well, I've seen 5 therapists and everyone tells me I must forgive, but I don't know how. Working with you has taught me how to do forgiveness, and I did 50 pounds of it. She lost the 50 pounds without dieting because she let go of her fear, and the fear that has created the blockages in her energy fields. She felt better. She learned to love herself. She learned to take better care of herself. And over a period of 3 months, she lost 50 pounds. And this time she came to me and she said in our exit interview, I know I'll never gain back the weight. I've spent my whole life in therapy and yo-yoing my weight. I'll lose some, I'll gain back, I'll lose some, I gain back, I change a therapist, and I lose some, and I gain back, I change a therapist. Did that 5 times, and also she's had 5 husbands. Each time hoping for something new, but never changing her heart. Right? You know what they say about doing the same thing, expecting a different outcome? She did insanity 5 times. Until she showed up at my office, and we have to do something different. I said, I don't know what yet, but we've got to do something. We can't be changing therapists and changing husbands the rest of our lives. And your body can only take so much abuse of expanding and contracting. Something different has got to be done. In the process of learning to forgive others and forgive herself and learning to love herself, she found it possible to reconnect with people whom she thought she hated. And she's learned to give way to empathy and compassion towards herself and towards other people. And that opened a whole new world. And all the people she's excluded in her lives because she's so angry, she has reconnected with. So the next step to forgiveness is to find a way to reconnect without having to have total agreement. What a boring world it is. You know what it looks like in the White House when the president is being surrounded by people who are trained to agree with him. It's disastrous. We have to learn to appreciate light and darkness, good and bad. The Tao Te Ching says, when you notice beauty, it's because there's ugliness out there. Everything has a balance. You can't see beauty until you acknowledge there's ugliness out there. But for me, the better news is, it's good to see the both, and I have choice. I can choose to be in darkness, or I can choose to be in the light. So in order for us to make a choice, reconciliation is a choice. And the person who can take the first step towards reconciliation is you. What if you've done all the forgiveness? You've forgiven them, you've forgiven you, and you say, hey, I want to be your friend again, hello. And they said, go away, I don't want to talk to you. You don't give up. That's where the word patience come in, whoever threw that word at me. You don't give up. If that is what you want, if you decide that this relationship is worth it, then you do whatever it takes. Keep sending blessing to the other person. In your meditation, send him love, genuinely. Not do it because I tell you to do it, but maybe that will work. You fake it until you make it. And slowly you will note that things will shift. It's happened to me several times in my life. And case in point is the person who is father to my children. We have become better friends than we were married. Because the day I left that household, I decided I will never be angry again. I will not bear any grudge. I will take responsibility. I made those choices. I came to this country. I chose to marry him. I chose to have children. I chose all the things that happened to us. I had a role to play. So nobody can be 100% responsible for all the good things or the bad things that happen to you in your life. In order to do that, I have to first be able to forgive him and then forgive myself for even holding a grudge. Because I have no room in my consciousness now for grudges. It's a waste of time. The older I get, the more precious my time. And I don't want to waste my time being angry. I don't want to waste my time worrying about, oh, I wish he would speak to me. I keep imagining that someday, if it is meant to be, he will speak to me. Someday, if it's meant to be, she will come back and recognize that all this time that she thought I was hating her, I was loving her. And so this piece of reconciliation is a personal choice. You must take that first step. And you must be patient. And you must keep looking towards a peaceful arrangement. You never be able to have 100% agreement. So don't even try. It doesn't matter. I can love you even if you don't agree with me. I can love you even though you don't agree with my choices. I can love you because I choose to love you. Because you are my sister, because you're my brother, because you're my mother, because you're my father. I can choose to love you because I can. And the mantra that I give out to students and clients and now friends, if you decide to subscribe, are the 3 phrases I use. I do this because I can. And it means I have the ability and the capacity to do so. I can forgive you. I don't want to right now. I can. And if I work hard enough, someday I may want to forgive you. I mean, it's sort of telling your teenager, go clean your room. Can you clean your room, honey? Yes, I can, Mom. Do you want to? No, I don't. I might clean my room next life. Or you ask the husband, honey, can you take the garbage out? He says, yep, I can. You didn't ask the right question. 3 weeks later, the garbage is still in the house. And you said, but you said you can. And he said, I still can, but I don't want to. So in the work we do, the precision of language determines the outcome of our intentions. So ask the right question. So first recognize that you can do many things. You have the capacity and the ability to do many things. Then you have to invest a little bit more effort by desiring it and say, I want to. Do you want to reconcile with this person? Now here's a biggie here in this context. Many people say, I don't ever want to see her again. Now that comes with a lot of anger, right? If you feel that way, or if you even sound that way, take a pause. I want you to reframe the question. Ben, here's your word. I want you to reframe that question and ask, what am I afraid of? Or before that, you can say, I sound angry, don't I? Don't want to talk to you again. I'll see you next life. Right? Well, the see you next life is a very Chinese expression. I'm just doing a direct translation. I'll see you next life. It really means I don't ever want to see you again this life. And maybe next life, if I have bad karma, I may encounter you in another incarnation. When you say, I don't want to, that's ego talking. Your ego says, I'm right here. Why should I bow down to you? I'm the almighty ego. You're the one who wronged me. You're the one who should come and ask for forgiveness. If that's so, you haven't really done forgiveness, have you? Either forgiving the other party or forgiving yourself. So don't kid yourself. You can't even smell reconciliation until you're truly sincere about forgiveness. You may not be so sincere about forgiving the other party, but until you forgive yourself, you will never find peace. That's the hardest part, is to, how do you forgive yourself? Because we're so hard on ourselves. It's a lot easier to do this than to do this. This, you have effort. This is easy, you know. The pointing at somebody else is a lot easier than pointing at yourself. Somehow that's the nature of life, isn't it? All right, so the second phrase of I want to, if you really want to do this in the way I talk about, it requires self-discipline, putting yourself in a place and injecting extra effort. As you know, it takes as much energy to launch the rocket as for the rocket to circumvent the Earth. First step is the hardest step, and it requires a boost. Sometimes it may require a prod from your friend, your teacher, your mentor, or your counselor, is to give you a little push so you can launch that rocket. Do the active forgiveness. So when you find that it doesn't feel right within your consciousness, I really don't want to see that person again, then ask the question, what am I afraid of? So what are you afraid of? What are we afraid of when we refuse to forgive someone? Is that we are being protective of ourselves. You have hurt me once. What's the likelihood of you hurting me again? If I should reopen the door and be vulnerable to your affections, and if you should withdraw those affections, I shall be hurt all over again. I'm not doing that. And in any case, you're the bad person. Why should I come back and say I want to reconcile with you? When we have ego governing our feelings, when we have ego overriding our better senses, deep inside you know you want to. There was once a good time, you had a good relationship with this person. That's why it hurts so much, because you once loved him or her, and now you're guarded. You put your heart in a little box and locked it up. I'm not going to go there. So that is a sense of avoidance. And it takes extra effort, it takes patience, and it takes a desire to grow, to push forward. As you explore the notion of I want, when you put aside those fears and you say, this person matters to me. I want to renew a relationship. It will never be the same again because we've had this conflict. But I want to reestablish, reconnect, renew, and reframe, and recreate a new relationship, because there are parts of you and there's parts of them that are good together. Is it possible that we find common ground to rebuild a new relationship? And if you can't, I promise you it's because your ego is overriding you. If you go to your heart is all good. It's the ego that tells you you cannot do this and you cannot do that. If you want true forgiveness, you have to fire the ego. I'm not perfect. And there are times where the ego slips in, and I have to check myself. My recovery time is a lot shorter though because of self-discipline. I have a keener sense of awareness. Uh-oh, ego is here. Pause. Get out of my house, ego. You're not welcome at my dinner table. Go away. And that recovery time gets shorter and shorter because of practice. And practice requires self-discipline. That self-discipline is about you making a choice. That there are many things I can be doing now, but right now this is important enough for me. This is a no matter what time I have to dedicate this effort to do this. That's self-discipline. Who wants to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and read and do things? It's because something in the person is desirous of that time, oversleeping. To do something you promise yourself is worth your time and effort. Right? No matter what. That's the no matter what time. So if we pay attention to everything we do in a very mindful way, our life becomes a lot easier. and more meaningful. And we will have a lot more peace in our lives, in all the relationships we have. I hear people complaining about colleagues. Blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, how's your day? Oh, it was horrible. And John, he did this, and Mary, he did that, and Ali, he did this, and Fatima, she did that. Blah, 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 blah. That's why I charge a high hourly rate. If you complain, I charge by the hour. Take all the time you need. Now, imagine if you sit and complain for 30 minutes and rehash all the bad things in your day. At the end of the day, I am so mad at her. I don't think I want to talk to her tomorrow when I go to work. So you get back into the office the next day and you look at her and you pout and you stare there and goes, do you know how much energy that takes? And then it grows. It gets bigger all day long, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you have so much hate in your heart, you're ready to blow up. The wanting peace is a big deal. They're just two words. The first two words, I can. The next one is I want, or I want to, I want. And the third phrase, this is my mantra, is I choose. I can, I want, I choose. So you have the energy and the ability to do these things, but you may not want to. In order to want to, it requires self-discipline to tell yourself, this is important enough for me to want it. If it's not important for you to want it, or if your ego is ruling you and you say, I don't want it, I don't need you in my life, I don't need to see you ever again in this lifetime, so go to wherever you want to send them. So you get to I want. If you can get to I want, so is there life beyond I want? Yes. Because even if you want something, it doesn't mean that you will actually do it. I want to be a millionaire, but I'm not willing to get a job. I'm going to sit here and wait for it to rain dollars and gold coins. Is it going to happen? Maybe in a million years. If you don't put in the effort and get off your butt and do something, it ain't going to happen. You know, there's a lot of work out there about goal setting, about intentions, and all I have to do is think about it and it's happened. Maybe for some people. But you know, if you set the intention and you want it bad enough, then you collect enough momentum, you will actually do something about it. Right? If you want to be a millionaire, think like one, behave like one, go study all the millionaires in the world and tell me how they get to become millionaires, if that's your goal. And then see what they do. But if you're not willing to walk their talk, it's not going to happen. Unless out of the woodwork you have a rich uncle who dies and leaves you all the money he's ever earned. Right? I don't have such relatives, I assure you. Okay, so the choose is the act of exercising the option. I believe most of us have choices. Some of us who live in certain parts of the world are constrained by geography and politics that you may not be able to exercise some of the choices you desire. But in our day-to-day relationship, we do have options. We have options. And we can choose. But unless we make the choice to do something about it, unless you're desirous of reconnecting with the person, unless you feel that this person should not be flushed down the toilet of your life and is of some value of your love and respect, then don't do it. But if you feel that there's something good in the person, for in order to detect something good in another, you have to be able to detect that same something good within yourself. If you're judgmental of the other person, you sit there and you do nothing but complain, 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 and just know that all those words you use come from your consciousness because you own them, even though you're blind to them. And so the more you complain about other people, the more you should take a mirror and reflect those terms back to yourself and see which part of those descriptions do you own. Therefore, when you choose and you say, well, X number of years has gone by, I married this person, it didn't work out. You still love the person, but you can't live with him anymore. And you choose to part ways. And you have children in common. It's difficult, like it or not. You're going to have to look at his face for as long as you or your children shall live. Our quickest way to eliminate the problem is if they don't exist anymore. You don't want to do that. Because I used to tell people when I was teaching about HIV and AIDS, is one guaranteed way to stop the virus. How does the virus survive? It needs a host. No host, no virus. Kill the patient, there won't be any transmission, burn everything. But that's not a practical solution. So we live in a day-to-day where we have to be practical. So you can do this. Nothing happens unless you decide you want to do this. And after you decide you want to do this, you have to choose to do this. So there's the solution right there in front of you. I want to reconnect with this person. Perhaps if I close my eyes and imagine and progress in the near future, I can see me actually sitting down having a cup of coffee in the mall with this person. And we may choose to restart a new relationship because our lives have never been the same again, will never be the same again. The Chinese people say you break a mirror and you mend it, the crack will always be there. And in order for us to move on, we have to actually acknowledge the crack. You can't ignore the crack. You have to acknowledge the crack and say, okay, so we both goofed. All right, move on. Can we still love each other if we don't agree with each other? So this whole notion of loving, compassion, the word compassion requires two people. C-O, the co, means to have compassion, there must be a two-way feeling. So that's what I believe. Forgiveness is a good start to have reconciliation. I'm not sure if that's the right way to pronounce it. I like to say reconciliation because the word re means to do again. I've always, in my mind, read it as reconciliation. Let's renew, let's regenerate, let's reframe, let's restart, let's rejuvenate our relationship, let's reconciliate, let's reconnect. So I like all the re words. The word re, I like to take the letter E out and say it requires energy. It's not going to happen by itself. You have to want it, you have to choose it. Then when you reconnect again, you create something new. Do not try to relive life past. That's a futile exercise. You cannot walk in the same river twice. Your relationship will never go back to before. But how exciting it would be if you can reframe the situation and imagine a much better relationship in the future. Why do you want something already known? Make room for new things. Grow to a new level of a new relationship with the same person. It is possible. When we clear our blockages, we will get rid of the ego. Then we can reframe the situation, and by exercising self-discipline and patience, we can, if you want to, choose to reconcile or reconnect with people whom you have forgiven. You have forgiven yourself for the hurt in that conflict. And so you can bless yourself with the gratitude in your heart and grow into a new relationship. And there you have it. I believe forgiveness is a personal choice. You can choose to forgive anyone and anything because you have the power to forgive yourself. You have the power to forgive other people. You do not need somebody's permission to bless them. And by the same token, you do not need their permission to forgive them. They may know it, they may not know it. Forgiveness is a personal choice. So you can forgive whoever you want. Many people have such tightness and blockages in their heart chakra. They can't allow themselves to receive love or give love. It's easy to love people we like. It takes a lot more effort to be able to love people we do not like, or love people we don't even know. And you can forgive whoever you choose to forgive. Your feelings are yours and yours alone. Nobody can make you feel. I think using the word forgive me is better than saying you're sorry, because it takes effort to forgive. I believe that if we have wronged someone, we have to find a way to rectify if we can. Now, clearly, if you've killed someone, you can't bring them back to life. But there are many things you can do. I don't believe an eye for an eye. If for whatever reason a life has been taken, taking your life is not going to make the family feel better. But perhaps you can take the responsibility of raising that family that you left behind because of your wrongdoing, have taken the life of the breadwinner. Perhaps you can be sentenced to providing for that family for the rest of your life. Go out and get a job and give half your salary to that family. Don't know. It still doesn't make things right, but it makes things better. We can never make things the same as before. I don't know why people spend so much energy. I want things to be back the same. I want him to love me like the first day he married me. It's not going to happen. So don't even go there. But make room for new joys. Until you give up today, you don't have room for tomorrow. Today has come and passed. Tomorrow can be better. The choices we make today determine the outcome for tomorrow. We can't change what happened yesterday, but we can make something today that will affect the outcome tomorrow. That's the good news. We can change. And if you want to change and choose to change, change happens. Got your mat, got your envelope, thank you very much. It arrived yesterday. And the red envelope is so pretty with all the laser cut. I'm saving it for a while. Eventually I have to burn all the envelopes, but they're so pretty I let it sit for a while.
So why do you burn all the envelopes?
Well, to release the energy. When I usually put your red envelope in my blessing bowl for 9 days. So you might sense some special healing energies coming your way. And then when that's done, I disobligate you and I burn the red envelope. I don't burn the cash. I don't burn the check. I burn the red envelope. And usually the money from the red envelope I put in a box and I use it for charity and stuff like that. That's my red envelope box. I don't log that as income because it's not an income. It's a blessing. First of all, I have to receive your blessing, accept that you have received the blessing. And so I accept your red envelope, then I place it in the blessing bowl for 9 days. And then when that's done, that's the end of that piece, no karmic debt, then I would burn the red envelope. It's also a way of detachment.